You ever look at someone you love and realize in a single heartbeat that they're already gone? That's how it started for me. A quiet Thursday morning, sunlight crawling lazily across the kitchen counter, and Emily sitting there with her coffee the same way she had for 8 years. Except this time she wasn't really there. Her eyes kept flicking to her phone. Her smile, the one that used to light up entire rooms, felt rehearsed, polite, like I was some stranger she was tolerating until something better came along. I remember stirring my coffee, pretending not to notice the faint vibration of her phone under the table. But I noticed everything. "Who's that?" I asked. She froze for half a second too long before saying, "Oh, just Sarah from work." "Sarah?" Funny how every cheating spouse seems to have a Sarah from work. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, smiled, and watched as she slipped the phone back into her bag upside down. That was the first time my stomach really dropped. But denial's a hell of a drug. So I told myself she was just tired, stressed, distant maybe. People drift, it happens. Except drifting doesn't look like coming home late 3 nights a week. Drifting doesn't smell like cologne that isn't yours. And drifting doesn't whisper, "Don't wait up for me, I'm having dinner with the team," while avoiding eye contact. Still, I tried. God, I tried. I planned date nights. Cooked her favorite meals, bought her flowers, the soft pink roses she used to love. Each time I set them down on the counter, she'd smile like she was humoring me and then go upstairs to take a shower. That word shower became a wall between us, a signal that the night was over before it even began. Then one evening everything changed. I'd gotten home early from work, an unusual thing for me. I wanted to surprise her. She'd said she'd be out with Sarah for drinks. But as I pulled into the driveway, I noticed a car I didn't recognize. Dark blue, polished, parked just far enough from the curb to look casual. I didn't even know why I looked twice. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was fate. I walked inside. The house was dim, only the faint golden light from the living room lamp cutting through the silence. And then I heard it, laughter, hers, that same soft, sweet laugh that used to belong to me. My feet moved before my brain caught up. I peeked through the half-open door. There she was, Emily, curled up on the couch with some guy, his hand resting casually on her thigh, his face angled toward her like she was the only person in the world. She looked happy, not fake happy, genuinely happy. That sight hit harder than anything else could have, because I realized in that single second that whatever I'd been fighting to save, she'd already given away. I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell, I just quietly backed out of the house, got in my car, and drove. That night, I parked a few streets away and sat under the amber glow of a streetlight, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I wanted to cry, scream, punch something, anything, but all that came out was silence. When I finally walked back inside hours later, the house was empty. She'd left a note on the counter. It said, "Mark, I didn't mean for you to find out this way. I'm sorry. I need time to figure myself out. Please don't hate me." No explanation, no "I love you." Just that. The next few days blurred together. Her clothes disappeared one by one. The closet grew emptier. The space beside me in bed turned cold. Friends stopped asking how we were doing. My phone stayed silent. And every night I stared at those damn roses, the ones that had wilted in the vase, and wondered what I'd done wrong. I wasn't perfect. I knew that. I'd missed anniversaries, worked too many hours, maybe taken her for granted. But betrayal, that was something else entirely. A few weeks later, I finally broke down and checked her social media. I shouldn't have, but I did. That's when I saw him, Ethan, the same guy from my living room. A coworker, handsome, charming, the kind of guy who probably said all the right things when I wasn't around. There were pictures, smiles, drinks, sunset captions. It looked like love, the kind she and I used to have before everything turned gray. I deleted the app and sat there in silence. The thing about heartbreak is it doesn't hit all at once. It's like a leak. A slow, steady drip until one day you're standing in a flooded room wondering when it started drowning you. But here's the thing about me, I don't break loudly, I break quietly, and quietly I started changing. I went to work, ate dinner alone, took long walks at night. And somewhere in those quiet hours, I began to understand something painful. Sometimes the person you'd take a bullet for is the one pulling the trigger. Still, I couldn't stop loving her, even after everything. One evening, after another silent dinner, I found myself standing in the kitchen again, the same spot where this all began. I looked at that empty vase, then at the door she used to walk through every night, and I whispered to no one, "If you ever come back, I hope I'm strong enough to let you go." I didn't know it then, but those words would come back to me in the most unexpected way. Because love, even when it's broken, has a way of circling back. And Emily, she would come back, not as the woman who left, but as the one who finally realized what she'd lost. Grief doesn't scream, it whispers. It moves in quiet routines, in empty chairs, cold dinners, and the hollow sound of your own breath echoing through an empty house. The first month without Emily was like living inside someone else's life. I'd wake up half expecting her next to me, hair fanned across the pillow. For a second, I'd forget. Then I'd reach over and the sheets would be cold. She'd text me once in a while, little things. "Can we talk soon? I didn't mean to hurt you like this. I hope you're okay." I never replied because what could I say that I wasn't okay? That every corner of this house felt haunted by her voice. Instead, I just lived with the silence. I started running early mornings before the world woke up. I'd watch the sunrise bleed across the sky and wonder if she was watching it too. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the gym mirror and not recognize the man staring back. Thinner, tired, but maybe stronger. One evening after my run, I got a message from an unknown number. "Hey Mark, it's Ethan. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen, my pulse kicked up. My first instinct was to delete it, but then I thought, talk, what could he possibly have to say to me? Against my better judgment, I replied, "About what?" "Emily. She's worried about you." I almost laughed, worried about me. The woman who ripped my heart out was now worried. "I'm fine," I typed back. "Good," he said, "then let's keep it that way." And just like that, I understood. It wasn't concern, it was control. He wanted me quiet, out of the picture, so I stayed quiet, but inside something shifted. That night I poured a drink and sat in the dark. I imagined Ethan, the smooth talker, the kind of guy who probably took her to fancy restaurants, said all the right things. I pictured him holding her hand the way I used to, whispering promises that wouldn't last. And then I realized something painful but liberating. He wasn't better than me. He was just new. Newness fades, and love built on lies, it rots from the inside. Weeks passed. I focused on myself. I fixed things around the house that I'd been putting off, cooked actual meals instead of microwave dinners, little victories, but the nights were still the hardest. That's when memories crept in, her laughter. The way she used to hum while folding laundry. The smell of her perfume clinging to my shirts long after she left. One night, I found a photo album buried in the closet, our trip to Seattle. Her arms wrapped around me, both of us drenched in rain and smiling like idiots. I closed it fast, but not fast enough. The ache lingered, and then one afternoon she showed up at the house. It was a Saturday. I was in the garage fixing a shelf when I heard a knock. I opened the door and froze. Emily stood there, same face, same soft brown eyes, but something was different. She looked nervous, unsure. She smiled faintly. "Hey." "Hey," I said. Silence stretched between us, the kind that carries 1,000 unsaid words. "I just wanted to see how you're doing," she said. "You look good." I shrugged. "I'm surviving." She nodded, looked down, then back up. "He's been really good to me, Ethan." There it was, the dagger wrapped in casual conversation. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "That's good," I said. "I'm glad." But she kept talking, nervously, like she needed to convince herself. "He's funny and spontaneous, it's just different. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Different doesn't always mean better, though." Her eyes flickered. For a split second, guilt flashed across her face. Then she smiled again, forced. "Well, I should go, just wanted to check in." "Sure." As she turned to leave, I caught a faint shimmer in her eyes. Regret, doubt, maybe both. After she left, I stood there for a long time, staring at the door. Something told me that conversation wasn't about checking in. It was about checking out, testing if there was still a version of me waiting. There wasn't, not anymore. A month later, I got another message. This time from Emily. "Mark, I think I made a mistake." My chest tightened. I sat there, phone in hand, heart pounding. I wanted to ask a million questions, but I didn't. Instead, I just stared at the screen, waiting for her to keep typing. "He's not who I thought he was. I don't even know what I was chasing." Then silence. I didn't respond, not yet. Something told me this was only the beginning of her unraveling, and I was right. A few days later, while coming back from the grocery store, I saw them, Emily and Ethan, in the parking lot. They were arguing, not just a small spat, a full-blown fight. He was waving his hands, voice sharp. She looked small, defensive, like she was trying not to cry. He got in his car and drove off. She stood there, frozen. Then she saw me. Her eyes went wide, and for a moment everything froze, the world, the traffic, my heartbeat. She took a small step forward, then stopped. I didn't move, didn't speak, just gave her a small nod and walked past her, groceries in hand. For once, I wasn't the broken one. That night, I sat by the window with a cup of coffee and thought about everything. About love, about loss, about the way people sometimes destroy good things chasing something they can't even define. And for the first time since she left, I felt calm, not happy, not healed, but calm. Sometimes strength isn't about fighting back, it's about not reacting, not letting your pain become your prison. But deep down, I knew this story wasn't done. Because the look in her eyes in that parking lot, that haunted, hollow look, told me Ethan was about to show her the same kind of pain she'd given me. And when that day came, I didn't know how I'd feel. Part of me still loved her. Part of me wanted her to finally understand what she'd done, and part of me just wanted peace. It happened on a rainy night, the kind where the air feels heavy and everything smells like wet asphalt and nostalgia. I was sitting on the couch reading when I heard the knock, soft, hesitant. For a second, I thought maybe it was a delivery or a neighbor, but something in my chest told me I already knew. When I opened the door, there she was, Emily. Her hair was damp, strands clinging to her cheeks. Mascara streaked down her face. She looked broken, not the confident woman who'd left, not the one who smiled beside another man, just Emily, the girl who used to laugh at my stupid jokes, who'd fall asleep on my chest watching late-night reruns. Mark, she whispered, her voice cracked on my name. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The rain filled the silence between us. Then she took a shaky breath. Can I come in? I hesitated just long enough for her to notice. But then I stepped aside. Yeah, come in. She walked past me slowly, eyes darting around the room like it was both familiar and foreign. The same pictures on the wall, the same couch, but something was missing her. I stood a few feet away, unsure where to start. She turned to me, hands trembling. I don't even know what to say. Then start with the truth, I said quietly. Her lip quivered. For a long time she just stared at the floor. Then finally, he cheated on me. The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. I didn't react, didn't rush to comfort her. I just let the silence do the talking. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I thought he was different. I thought he loved me, but I was just convenient, temporary. I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. And now? She looked up at me, eyes red, desperate. Now I don't even know who I am anymore. Something inside me twisted, because as much as I wanted to feel satisfied, vindicated, even all I felt was tired. I gestured toward the couch. Sit. She did. I stayed standing for a while before sitting across from her. The rain outside grew louder, like the world was trying to drown out everything we weren't saying. Finally, I asked, why Emily? She looked away. I don't know. I wish I did. Her voice broke. I just felt unseen. I thought maybe if I found something new, I'd feel alive again. I nodded slowly. And did you? She shook her head. No, I felt worse. A single tear slid down her cheek. I ruined the only thing that was ever real. You loved me better than anyone ever could, and I threw it away for nothing. Her words hit me like a slow knife, not because they hurt, but because they were honest. For a moment, I saw the girl I married, the one who danced barefoot in our kitchen the night we moved in, the one who used to say, "You make me feel safe." I wanted to hold her, to comfort her, but I couldn't, not like before. Instead, I said softly, "You didn't just ruin us, Emily. You broke something in me I didn't even know could break." She covered her face, sobbing. I know, and I hate myself for it. I can't eat, I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see your face the night you walked out. You didn't even yell, Mark, you just left. And somehow that hurt more than if you had screamed." Her words trembled through the room, and I could feel every ounce of regret pouring out of her. I got up and walked to the kitchen, poured 2 glasses of water. My hands shook as I set one in front of her. She looked at me, her voice small. "Do you hate me?" I sat down slowly. "No, I wish I did. Hate would be easier than this." She looked down, nodding. "You were always kinder than I deserved." We sat in silence again, the kind that feels like it could collapse the whole house. Finally, she whispered, "Can I stay just for tonight? I don't have anywhere else to go." Every logical part of me screamed no. But the part that still remembered her laughter, her warmth, the way she'd once looked at me like I was her whole world, that part couldn't turn her away. "You can stay," I said, "just for tonight." She looked up, eyes full of tears. "Thank you." That night she slept in the guest room. I could hear her crying softly through the wall. And as much as I tried to block it out, every sound felt like an echo of what we used to be. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling torn in two. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to let her back into my life, to rebuild what we'd lost. But another part knew some things can't go back to the way they were. At some point, exhaustion won. I drifted to sleep. When I woke up, the house was silent. For a moment, I thought she'd left again. But then I saw her sitting on the couch, wearing one of my old sweaters, staring at the vase on the table. Inside it were fresh pink roses, the ones she used to love. She looked up when she heard me. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "You still buy them?" I nodded. "Every week." Her eyes filled with tears again, even after I left. "Especially after you left," I said. "They reminded me that love can die if you stop taking care of it." She stood up slowly, walked over to me and whispered, "I don't deserve your kindness." I met her eyes. "Maybe not, but I needed to give it anyway, for me." She broke down again, whispering apologies I'd already heard in my head 1,000 times. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger, I felt release. Sometimes closure isn't about fixing what's broken, it's about accepting that it broke and still choosing peace. That night before going to sleep, I found myself writing a letter, not to her, not really. To the version of her I once loved, Emily. I forgive you not because what you did was okay, but because I refuse to carry it anymore. Love doesn't always survive betrayal, but sometimes it transforms. I hope you find your peace. I already found mine. I folded it neatly and left it on the kitchen counter beside the roses. Tomorrow morning she'd see it and she'd understand. The morning came soft and pale. That kind of early light that filters through the curtains like forgiveness itself. I woke up to the faint clatter of dishes. For a moment I thought it was a dream, but when I walked into the kitchen, there she was, Emily. She was standing by the sink, hair pulled back, wearing that same old flannel shirt I thought she'd taken with her. She looked calm, tired but calm. "Morning," I said quietly. She turned, eyes red but steady. "Morning." The smell of coffee filled the air, rich, warm, familiar. For a heartbeat, it almost felt like old times, almost. Then her eyes dropped to the counter, to the letter, the one I'd left beside the vase of roses. She hesitated before picking it up. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unfolded the paper. I stood there in silence, watching her read every word. Her lips parted as her eyes moved across the page. By the time she reached the end, her hands were shaking. She pressed the letter to her chest and whispered, "You forgive me." "I do," I said softly, "but that doesn't mean we can go back." Tears rolled down her cheeks, slow, silent. "I know," she said, "I wouldn't ask you to." We stood there for a long time, just breathing the same air, two people bound by love and loss and everything in between. Finally, she said, "You know what hurts most? You loved me even when I stopped deserving it." I looked at her, really looked at her, the woman who'd once been my entire world, now just a person I used to know too well. "Love isn't about deserving," I said, "it's about choosing. I chose you for a long time, even after you left." She nodded slowly, "And now?" "Now," I said, "I'm choosing me." She broke, not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a dam giving way after too much weight. I reached out, resting a hand on her shoulder. For the first time in months, she didn't pull away. It wasn't passion or romance or longing. It was something purer, mercy. She whispered, "You were my home, Mark." "And you were mine," I said. "But sometimes we outgrow the place we call home." The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was full of everything we'd never said. She stayed a few more hours that morning. We talked not about the past, not about blame, just life. She told me about how Ethan had promised her the world, then chipped away at her self-worth until she didn't recognize herself. I told her how lonely the nights were, but also how the quiet had taught me strength I didn't know I had. There was no shouting, no bitterness. Just two people finally seeing each other clearly, maybe for the first time. When she finally stood to leave, she turned to me at the door, her voice trembled. "Will you be okay?" I smiled faintly, "I already am." She nodded, tears welling again. Then she did something unexpected, she leaned in and kissed my cheek. Soft, gentle, final, "Goodbye, Mark," she whispered, "goodbye, Emily." And just like that, she was gone. The door clicked shut, and with it, the last chapter of our story. I stood there for a long while, staring at the vase on the counter. The roses looked even brighter in the sunlight's soft pink petals catching the morning glow. I picked up the letter she'd folded back and left beside them. On the back, in her handwriting, she'd written one line. "Thank you for still being kind when you had every reason not to be." I smiled, a small, quiet smile. Then I set it down and opened the window. The cool morning air filled the room, carrying the scent of rain and roses. And for the first time in a long time, I felt light, not because she was gone, but because I finally was free. Later that week, I drove to a small florist on Maple Street, the same one I used to buy her roses from. The owner, an older woman, looked up and smiled. "Back again?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, "but this time not for her." She handed me a fresh bouquet. I took it to the park near our old house, the one with the bench under the oak tree where we'd once carved our initials. The carving was still there, faint but visible. M+E. I set the roses down gently, and for a moment I spoke softly to the wind. "I forgive you, Emily, and I hope you forgive yourself too." Then I walked away, no music. No tears, just peace. That night, as I sat alone on my porch, I realized something about love. It doesn't end when people betray you. It doesn't vanish when hearts break. It simply changes, becomes quieter, wiser, softer. Forgiveness doesn't erase the pain. It just means the pain doesn't own you anymore. And maybe that's the truest kind of love, there is the kind that survives even after goodbye. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight spilling across the floor, warm and golden. I made myself coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and for once the silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I looked at the empty vase and thought maybe it's time for new flowers. So I smiled and whispered to no one, "Goodbye, Emily. Thank you for teaching me how to let go." And just like that, I finally did. How to let go. And just like that, I finally did.